biblically speaking, wise people are also wealthy people. They're responsible, they have integrity. So find people that are making lots of money, doing lots of good, being generous, walking rightly with God, and you're going to find yourself doing the same thing.
Hey, Brett Swartz here, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. We're at the Building Billions podcast. Once again, we're excited to rock and roll. We're with Jeremy Krulikowski. It's probably the coolest name ever. Tell us about your story and your focus. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. So I would just say everything that you just mentioned is really personal to me. I don't come at debt and financial lack and scarcity from an ivory tower. I come from firsthand experience. And even just like growing up, I was we didn't have much money. I don't know what it was like for you, but I mean, like going on family vacations wasn't a thing really. Having money, talking about money wasn't a thing unless we didn't have it. So I grew up with a really pretty strong poverty mentality and just always doubting, basically like glass half empty. My mom's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go on this trip whenever it's summertime. We're gonna go on a cruise. We're gonna go to Disney. And I'm like, as a little kid, you're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then eventually, if it doesn't happen, eventually like, nah, that's never gonna happen. So I think I just kind of accepted the fact that I wasn't ever gonna have much money. Things just kind of got worse throughout my childhood to the point where, we went from Florida to Tennessee. And when I was 17, things got really tight. Our house wasn't selling in Florida when we moved. My dad's job wasn't working out. He was having kind of a huge mental breakdown, and everything was going well except for him. And after, a few months of trying to get a business going, feeling the financial pressure, things just weren't working out. Unfortunately, he actually committed suicide. I actually have a picture of him right next to me on the desk. This is like one of our Christmas photos, kind of times. And this is like when things started to go down. So, I've seen firsthand what happens when you don't have money. And there's a huge mental health crisis in our country. And there's a massive amount of scarcity and fear. I mean, like you were saying earlier, I don't care how many people might say it's not that bad, but when you got $1.21 trillion in debt, the highest it's ever been, you've got 600 million something credit cards open. The average person has a 7,000 or so balance. Personal loans are at 25-ish million. Personal loans over 10,000 of that. And most people, I mean, maybe a lot of people here like, I'm good. I'm not worried about debt. I'm not worried about ever having financial issues. If so, I'd say praise God, hallelujah. That's awesome. Now you get to focus on being a generous giver and making an impact, like I know you love to do, Brett. But yeah, for those of you who are watching that might feel pretty helpless, I know what it's like to be there. And yeah, even starting our marriage, we were broke. We were broke.
Yeah, Kingdom Wealth Movement. You can go to Jeremy Krulikowski.com. I want to spell this for everybody because this is kind of a tongue twister.
If they go
K-R-U.
They go to kingdomwealthmovement.com. By the time this comes out, we're redoing our website, but they got that.
Okay, so don't forget about that. Don't even worry about that. And then you can figure out Jeremy's last name on his website, kingdomwealth.com. So let's dive into the 5 secrets, Jeremy, to becoming totally debt free. And these are Christian secrets or biblical secrets, right? Like this is great. Let's talk through it.
Yeah, man. So honestly, some of it in some ways, I mean, it's not like the Bible has the corner on this stuff. A lot of it's just common sense, but I do believe a lot of it, especially if you are somebody who's religious and comes from a faith perspective, you've got a lot of really bad limiting beliefs and things that are kind of tucked away that are causing you to self-sabotage. And I've seen this with people, even that are millionaires, successful. It's like, if you in the background of your mind are thinking, money is evil, or the more money I have, the worse my relationship with God has to be, or you're afraid about going to hell if you have too much accumulated. Like I've seen people go from, even I had in my past, is like I'd find myself saving, building wealth. All of a sudden I'd find myself pulling back and just kind of like upwards and back, like up and down. And it wasn't until I got honest with myself and I realized like I was afraid of going to hell, Brett. I was afraid that if I had too much money, that it started to feel like my relationship with God was getting sacrificed, because I grew up in a place of my intimacy with God was based on desperation. Like, God, I need you to come through. I need you to, and you get this big high when some check comes in the mail or something happens or someone bails you out. But as you started to have more money, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to with this, is that you stop having that, give me this day my daily bread sort of, prayer. Cause you're like, I've got my bread. It's good. I got bread for the next few years. It's good. So then it can get a little bit weird, right? It kind of throws your equilibrium off spiritually sometimes. And so it's my prayer life went more from desperation to, exaltation, expectation. It just changed a lot. And that was very uncomfortable spiritually for me. So, one of the things we'll talk about in a second is root cause healing, which that's a big part of it. But I like to call it the cross framework for being a debt-free millionaire, because I think there's 5 critical things that once you do them, it transforms the game and it keeps you in a place of continuing to move upwards. So the first one is, if you already have debt, like credit card, personal loan debt, one of my favorite hacks is to cut it nearly in half with debt negotiation. And that's what our company Kingdom Debt Solutions has, which I'm sure we'll throw a link or something like that around here. But basically what we're doing there is, if you got credit card debt, personal loan debt, it's more than 10,000. Most people don't know this, but you can negotiate that typically with the banks. And so a lot of people are overpaying. They got average interest rate right now, Brad, is about 24%. It's absolutely insane. So if you just look, like if you got, say, $20,000 in debt, credit card debt, and you're just making the minimum payments, how much do you think you've put toward the principal at the end of the year? Like if you're paying $400 a month.
Oh, if I had to guess, how much is that 400 on a 24% interest rate? Let's just say
Definitely math skills.
it's
I won't
40,
be
40
saying it.
bucks, 40 bucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's better than that. It's like, but it's not even $1,000, right? So if you're putting like $400 a month,
Oh yeah, yeah. Per month. I'm sorry, per
yeah,
month.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was thinking $40 out of the 400 is what's going towards principal on a 12-month basis.
It's all good. Yeah. So basically nothing, like almost nothing. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking decades and decades and decades before you get free. So what we really like to do is show people how to go from paying double digit interest. And then we'll
Mhm.
talk about this later, but like, how do I start earning double digit interest? And so one of the coolest ways to do that is like learn how to negotiate it down. So like if someone
Mhm.
has like $50,000 in credit card debt, it's not uncommon for us to see them save maybe 500, 6, 7, 8, even toward $1,000 a month off their minimum payment, get on a fixed payoff plan to pay it off within 2 to 4 years. And then what's really great is that now you've got all this extra money freed up. And instead of just like, I understand the debt snowball and like just go gazelle intense and, like certain financial guys that would say that. But what I think is more fun is like, okay, now we got you on a fixed timeline. We know it's going to get done. Let's take that extra money and let's put that into the market. Let's put that into, whether that's real estate, let's put that into stocks. Let's do certain things and show you how to start earning 20%, 25% or more on your money, like the banks are doing to you. So basically, like become the bank, like think like the bank, invest like the bank, like do deals like the bank. So that's the C part, is like cut it in half, negotiate it. And we're really good at helping people do that. And what's cool is there's no upfront fee you have to pay. It's purely performance based. And that's really neat. So
Yeah,
that's,
make sure I captured it so far, right? So number one, like our intimacy sounds like can if you especially if you came from poor, a lower income or even just poor mindset growing up, where your desperation was connected to God providing for you financially and coming through in these really intense moments. Then when you start to get out, you can sabotage yourself or feel like there's somehow the more I make, then maybe potentially the less dependent I am on God, therefore the less close I am to God, and then maybe all the feelings of
yeah.
all the feelings come up. And then second, you just got to say, okay, let's start and let's figure out obviously what your debt you have. Let's see if we can consolidate and cut it in half. Yes.
Yeah, so consolidation's a little bit different. What we're doing is negotiation, where we're not just going
Okay.
to consolidate it. I mean, we could do a consolidation loan if someone
Right.
wants it. Like if you got a really high credit score, some people might not want to mess that up just temporarily to get the debt down. But yeah, what you're talking about spiritually, that's the next one. I'm going to talk about root cause healing,
Cool.
because that's the R there.
Yeah.
But honestly, Brett, you don't, and it's a good point you brought up. You don't. Yes, like it can. If you grew up poor, that can cause a lot of the challenges. But honestly, man, you don't have to grow up poor to have a lot of bad beliefs around money and spiritually, because the church, like even if you grew up rich or you have a really great, you're very successful, there's so much bad teaching in the church about money.
Hmm.
And that's because every week, where are we getting our teaching from? Mostly broke people, right? So like the theological spin around money that we get is typically, and this is just my experience personally and from work for thousands of people, especially a lot of Christians, is here's what you hear typically in church about money. One, you need to give it. And two, you should be worried about it. Like you should be scared. It's dangerous, right? Those are the two things that are constant. Like when's the last time you heard a sermon on why you should want to become a millionaire as a Christian?
I don't think I ever heard that term before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because most people teaching it are not, right? Or they think that it's bad, or they don't have that as a part of their goal, right? So, but my personal belief is that if you live in this country, right? Unless you're going to become Mother Teresa and you're going to become someone who takes a vow of poverty in order to be able to serve as many people physically, you should want to be as rich as you possibly can. Because the more money that you have, the more good you can do, right? It's more blessed to give than to receive. And what's interesting is that the only times that Jesus, that I've studied, I went to Bible college for 6 years. That's a whole other story. But it's like, I still didn't know a lot about money leaving it. But when you study this, the only two times we see where he says, here's how you store up treasure in heaven, guess how you do it? Give it to
Give.
the poor,
Mhm.
right? And give
Yeah.
it, but how can you do that if you don't have money?
Right.
Right. So that's just, I know you know this, a lot of people know this, but like, anyways, when we talk about root cause healing, which is like the R and the cross method, the
Mhm.
framework is you've got to deal with like, what are your limiting beliefs around money that could be tucked away there? And honestly, man,
Mhm.
it doesn't, again, I see this even with people that are really successful. Maybe they're even afraid. Maybe they still, I know guys that are millionaires that are like, they still are insecure. They still lack confidence, or they make decisions where they've gained. I mean, I've had clients that were multi millionaires, Brett, and then because they had like a lot of junk tucked away,
Mhm.
psychologically speaking, then they self-sabotaged and they did some bad deals and they didn't pay attention, and before you know it, they lost all their money and they're back to square one.
Hmm.
That's not uncommon. So, anyways, this is the kind of stuff like you got to know how to. So when we talk about root cause healing, like what are your beliefs around money that need to go? What are the beliefs
Mhm.
around yourself that need to go? Like I'm too stupid. I'm gonna screw everything up.
Mm.
I don't have confidence. Like all of these things, like you got to deal with that. What are the emotions that have to change, right? If you're someone who shows up to life chronically in a state of depression or anxiety
Mhm.
or anger or frustration, again, it's only a matter of time before you lose everything financially. But even worse, I don't believe, and I know you would agree with this, I don't have any respect or believe someone is successful just because they have $1 billion.
Mhm.
If your kids don't like you, if your wife doesn't like you, if you've got anger issues, if your team doesn't like you, if your company doesn't like you're a failure,
Right.
right? So I believe like you've got to heal like what is going on underneath you emotionally, psychologically that could cause you to make bad financial decisions and ultimately end up back in a place of scarcity and lack.
Okay, so it sounds like asking yourself the tough questions, figuring out the limiting beliefs, figuring out the emotions behind those beliefs, the stories behind those beliefs, and working through those things. And that a fair summary so far for the root cause healing.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
And then the O here is optimized stewardship. So
yeah.
that's the O in the cross. So when we talk about that, I think of it like as two things. So budgeting and like in terms of like knowing your numbers and like actually being ahead of it as you plan, and then doing a savings audit. So when it comes to the budgeting part, honestly, if you're not tracking your numbers, this is where we're seeing a lot of fraud. When people come to us, they're being overbilled. There's late fees, there's unused subscriptions, impulse buying, lots of stuff like that. They don't have a plan, right? And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It says in Proverbs, the plans of the diligent will prosper, right? But so that part of being diligent, like biblically speaking, is having a plan. And so we believe that you need to know what's going on with your money. You need to have, and again, a lot of people watching this might already be good on that front, but like having a budget isn't just knowing like how much you spent. It's actually planning where you're going to tell your money to go. So that's one part. And then the savings part is like a lot of people are overpaying on taxes, or just like you, right? Like you'd be a part of that, which is maybe like you could have actually saved a lot more money and not had to give so much away to the government if you had actually had a better strategy for that. So a lot of times people are overpaying on taxes, or they know that they could have started a business, and they're not, and so there's a lot of their parts that they're not writing off. Maybe they're overpaying on insurance, cell phones. So like the O part is really like, let's look at the money you already have coming in before we're talking about making more money, which is next. Like, let's just manage this better. And honestly, man, like a lot of people that are probably watching this, they don't have to make any more money to have multiple millions or maybe even get to billions. They just need to go ahead and they need to manage what they've got better, honestly. So
That
that's,
makes perfect sense. So budgeting, knowing your numbers, a savings audit, just even basic stuff, unused subscriptions, paying more tax than you need to be paying, and having a plan for these things, and knowing your numbers. I think of like Shark Tank, and they come on, they're like, "Hey, know your numbers," and the
yep.
guys that know their numbers, they're like, "Out." So we can't take for granted the discipline of knowing our numbers and budgeting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. You got to know that stuff. And then you'll be better in business too. Because if personally you have a better handle on that, you're more confident, you're going to do a better job of not making dumb decisions with your money.
Excellent. What's the practical application of that? Like once a week, what's the app? What's the cadence? Like what is some of the wisdom behind that?
Yeah, so we have obviously we've got lots of trainings in our company where we're going to show people like, hey, here's we could be saving here, we could be saving here, talk to this expert, we like to try to be a one-stop shop. Like nobody Like I just think about money to me is kind of like it's not like the grocery store. It's like you have to go to 20 different farmers markets and like go to this one sells cucumbers and this one sells walnuts and this one sells pear. It's like nobody would want to do shopping like that. So we try to do as much of in-house as we can or just refer it out. So when it comes to the budgeting, like we give people the software, we show them how to use it, we track it, we do reviews with them to make sure it's fully set up right. Like there's just a lot of stuff that you could do. I mean, we use like Monarch Money. It's a great app that you can use. But the problem with that, Brett, is like if just having a budgeting app were was the solution, like there's never been more apps. You know, they've got wine ad, you got this, you got all these different things, but our economy, like financially speaking, like we're getting worse and worse and worse on a household basis. So it's kind of like having a workout plan. You can have a workout plan, but
Yeah.
again, if you don't deal with going back to the R, like the root causes, if you don't have accountability, like which we provide people, like you're gonna, again, you're probably not even gonna use it. You're gonna set it up and it's just gonna sit there. You know what I
Yes, you're absolutely. I think I call it no health coach or no wealth coach. Basically, the plan will lose momentum, the excitement. It'll dwindle out, and you go back to old habits, old beliefs, old thought patterns.
mean?
Grew up playing basketball in college and stuff, and pretty good fitness and such. But, you get older, and I'm in my 40s now, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can like actually like really study this a little more. And I hired a health coach, right? And I got a health program and a nutrition plan, really, and a workout routine, and I started showing up to the meetings, and I got the app, and it's a whole thing, right? And it's like a 60-90 day type of thing, and I haven't been back to the coaching calls in a little while, but at the same time, like I've made drastic changes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm sticking to the consistency of the changes, right? And I'd say I'm 80 to 90% hitting everything they want me to, they taught me so far. And what's great is it gives me peace of mind knowing that I'm not overworking a certain part of my body for injury. So I have less like aches and pains that I used to have. And I think the reason I had so many aches and pains is because I was working out probably the same muscle groups, on too many days a week, right? And I wasn't probably getting the balance of all of that, So my point is, hired the pro and said, like, I'm not the pro in this. I'm probably, I could be the pro in basketball, if you will, right? But I'm not the pro in nutrition and lifting weights, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is the part here, like having humility. So talk about how humility comes into this. And people show up, and I even think about like pre-marriage counseling or pre-marriage coaching. It's like, hey, it's just wise to do. It's wise to get a money coach or a wealth coach or a budgeting coach, right?
Yeah, well, my favorite verse, my life verse is Proverbs 13:20 because it's made the biggest difference practically for me, which is whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm, right? And abundance of counselors are safety. There's so much wisdom in Proverbs about this. And so what I have found, to your point, every single upgrade that I've had in my life that was a complete 180, it wasn't usually from reading a book, right? It was from actually
Right.
finding somebody that was in amazing shape. And it's like, I am scrawny and weak
Mhm. Yeah.
and overweight or whatever.
Yeah.
You are ripped. What are you doing? And just do everything they say to do, right? Same thing
Yes.
with my business. When I first started my business, I didn't know anything about marketing or sales or any of this stuff. I'm like, I found somebody that was doing it themselves,
Mhm.
helping lots of people, and you just do it. And I just think that so many people overcomplicate the
Right.
whole journey, right? Just like you, right? It's like you could watch 15,000 YouTube videos and read books about how to save when you're doing a real estate transaction, or you could just pick up the phone,
Mhm.
call Brett, and you could like just copy what they're doing. You don't have to
Right.
reinvent the wheel. And like I think honestly, some of it is just from our Americanized like pull yourself by your own bootstraps. You figure like a lot of our ancestors came here and like it was every man for himself. Your neighbor speaks German, this person speaks Scott. You don't know how to communicate, so everyone just has to figure it out. But we're not. It's just a weird culture where like everyone's on their own, right? Like women breastfeeding. It's like you have to go on an app to try to find out how to do this. Like back in the day, it's like no, you just go to your next door neighbor, your mom's there, or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
just, so I think it's the same thing with money where everyone expects you, like you're just expected to be good at it, kind of like intimacy in marriage or whatever, but no one teaches you how to do it, right?
Right.
And how to actually have a success with it. So yeah, man, that's a huge part.
Hire the who, don't be the how,
Yep.
and don't take for granted just because you've made big successful, success in business and wealth in life, that it never hurts to go back to the basics and the fundamentals, and plant the foundation, or things change, things are changing, and I think it's just so much wisdom there when it comes to money. I love it. Okay, what's the next thing after O?
Yeah, yeah. So two S's. So scale your, we'll talk about the last one in a second, but scale your income. So basically, doing an audit of like where do you have opportunity to make more money, right? And when it comes to doing that, obviously there's two primary ways. You make more money for yourself or someone else, right? And so when it comes to making more money for yourself, like if you're a 9 to 5er, you're a W-2 kind of person, most people are leaving money on the table. They're underpaid, they're underappreciated, they could be getting a raise. So what we like to do is look at, okay, what are your goals? What is your opportunity? What's holding you back again, like from going after those opportunities? Because it's not like people that are under earning don't know they're under earning. They usually do, but they're not doing something about it, right? Maybe there's so many different reasons, Brett. We'll get somebody who's like maybe they were making $200,000 or something, and then now they're making 100, and you're like, well, what's the deal? What happened? And it's like, well, I got this thing happened in my marriage, or I got stressed out, or had a physical thing, and so I went and I changed jobs to something less stressful. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you could find something making even more money than what you're originally doing, and it could be less stressful, but they equated that challenge or that trauma or that difficulty with making lots of money. So that's just another example of like most people are self-sabotaging and could be earning more. If they're a business owner, right? It's like, how do I, so many times, man, it's just charging more, but they're insecure. They're not confident enough to be able to charge what they're really worth. And so they're again, self-sabotaging on that. So make more money, like scaling your business. There's just typically some simple things that you could do in your business to be able to earn more. And so to me, that's the fourth thing, is like really understand where are the gaps in my income and how can I go about doubling that, tripling that, quadrupling that over the next few years so that you have more money to be able to save. And just to go back to the other point that we were just talking about, the reason we talk about optimized stewardship first is because if you don't have a plan for the money you're already making, we find that as income goes up, what do you think happens to your expenses? you know, and those just trail up, and people aren't saving anymore, giving any more than they were when they were making a few $1,000s a month and when they're making tens of thousands. And also too, if you're in a marriage and you don't have clarity around your financial goals together, even if you don't have debt, even if you have lots of savings, I can't tell you how many times, Brett, we've worked with people making tons of money, but their marriages are falling apart over money because one person thinks they should be spending it all on this, the other person thinks they're spending too much on this, whatever. And it's like, and they're fighting about groceries and about trips and about how much they want to give. And again, like we like to help, especially married couples, like let's get on the same page. Let's help you figure out what are your, because money represents, this, right? Your values, your dreams, your goals, your hopes, your fears. And so that's why having a plan for your finances on the daily is going to help you guys have so much unity. And when my wife and I discovered that, it changed the game, man. It's the best marriage counseling the tool.
Let's walk through some of this stuff, right? So like, you get married, you get on the Dave Ramsey plan, or whatever it was, right? This is what we did. This is our story.
Yeah.
We paid off the debt of 68K in like 26 months, start having babies. Okay. It starts to get more intense. You get so busy. Like, I mean, we had 5 kids and 4 under the age of 5, I think. Yeah, basically, like it was nuts, right? And then like you're working all the time, and like mom's at home, trying to get the babies to, staying like all let's just say, just taking care of the kids. It's just a lot, right? So dad comes home and you're like, hey, all right, how are we doing spinning? Oh man, and then Amazon shows up and these boxes just show up like every day. And you're kind of in this whirlwind. So I got to the point where, and let me tell you what you think about this, right? Where instead of spending 95% of my time focused on expenses and what can we cut and how can we trim and save, and to going to how can I spend 95% of my time doubling my income every single year?
Totally.
And just completely stopped hey, you're spending too much. And they're like, but you bought that cool thing over there, like that one-time cool thing. And I'm like, well, it's kind of for the business, well, it is for the business. Instead of I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to, and so part of me almost kind of turned it off for a few years and then just said, I'm just going to go double. If I double every year, then there's no way she's going to outspend the doubling.
Yeah, you'd think, right? And that there is some truth to that, but I can just tell you personally as well that I do agree with that mentality, which is focus 95, actually, I think 97% of your attention on making money. I believe that's the focus. And that's the thing with some of these other plans. It's like, just cut expenses, like just go drive Uber, go, get the discount meat at Walmart and, cut coupons. Like maybe you can get out of debt doing that and it's really miserable and it takes a long time, but nobody builds wealth like that, right? And that's the thing that's totally unsustainable. And we get a lot of people from those said programs, I'll leave them anonymous, but
Yeah.
like they okay, now they're debt free, but they keep finding themselves back in debt, or they save, but then they pull from it. They don't ever get in the
Mhm.
game of investing and making more money. And that should have been the focus from the beginning. So I agree with you, but I've also seen where,
And by
again,
the way, I'm not saying mine's like right. I'm just saying like how we got through it, to be honest. Like
no, it's true.
I
It's true. It's true. But you've got like at the same time, like I have seen as well, if you
Mhm.
don't still have those checkpoints, like just I'll
Right.
be perfectly honest. So when I didn't have a lot of money budgeting, I mean, I was like every penny. It was like
Mhm.
we got to know where it's because you really have to, right? If you're making a
You
few thousand
should.
bucks a
You really
month, like
should.
yeah, like 15 bucks off the budget, like that could throw you into the red, right? But then once you're getting like 10,000 a month, then 20,000, then 30,000, and
Mhm.
you're making more monthly, yeah, there's a point where like I don't have to look at the budget every single week and we can be
Mhm.
a few hundred off and it doesn't really matter. Like it's not that big of a deal, but you still have to revisit and have
Mhm.
these we come back in and we look because I have found personally again, there was points where I was finding myself saving the same amount of money, making tens of thousands of dollars than when I was making a few thousand.
Yeah.
Because
No, no, you're 100% right. And so let's get practical here, right? Like, so this has been like the stages of like our life, and then we've scaled to millions in revenue, and we're like, it's all like, but it's like, whoa. And then you're right. And we got to get the house that's more expensive, but we've stayed pretty consistent, like just buying cars cash, keeping those low.
yeah, yeah.
The kids' sports start to pick up a little bit here. Like, so kids are the what income producing units. They're IP, IPUs, right? Income consuming units, ICUs,
They
right?
should be IPU. They should be
Yeah,
IPU.
ICs,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and so they're expensive and stuff. So all of these things happen, and I go okay, and then you're like, all right, and then you kind of want to get back on the same page. You know, you need to. Life gets busy, so let's get practical. So is what you're saying? Your team will work with like couples to systematically like reset, beliefs, mindsets,
Vision. Yeah. Just get total.
vision, budget.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys do like on the daily? Just want to get real
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah. So Kingdom Debt Solutions, like I was saying earlier, like that's purely the debt negotiation side
Okay.
of things. But
Yeah.
Kingdom Wealth Movement is where now we're going to work with you to really build out. Like, okay, now you've paid off some debt if that was an issue. Not everyone does, but
Yeah.
regardless, like, okay, now let's help you optimize your income. Let's help you
Hmm.
get a better plan for your finances. Like, what are the
Hmm.
limiting beliefs? What are the things, like let's
Yeah.
actually do a complete, it's kind of like extreme makeover money edition,
It's
right?
great.
like
Yeah.
like let's just do a complete overhaul and assessment.
Coach, you're a wealth and budget and coach. Like, I mean, that's what I would say. Yeah. And you
Yeah,
do that.
totally. Yep, yep. Yeah, and if the cool thing is if you're already making, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, even millions of dollars a month,
Mhm.
dude, you don't even have to necessarily make more money. You just sometimes I can't tell you how many times we're like, you've got literally thousands of dollars sitting here and it's
Mhm.
just going out the door and you have no idea. Man, if I can't even count how many times people had subscriptions and different things. Like they didn't even stuff they were paying for years, they forgot about it. They're like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know I was still paying for that. It's like I don't even use Apple TV. And I'm like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
still getting charged that every single month. And so, anyways,
Yeah.
to your point, yeah, that's what we do. So that's the fourth S.
What does that look like though on the daily or the monthly or the quarterly? What's the commitment? Like how long does it usually take to get the house back in order? What's it
It's
look
super
like?
simple. I mean, we have like the tool we use, like it actually uses AI as well to make sure that like everything stays in order for you. So like maybe a few minutes a week.
Yeah.
Like we encourage people to have like dream team meetings that are married, and it's like sit down and just do like hey, like how are we doing on the spending? How are we doing on track with that?
Yeah.
What do we got?
Yeah.
What
Once it's all set up, it's
Yeah.
not overly, but it's getting set up and having that support and having some of that accountability, right? To
Mhm.
get all of that back in motion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then let's just look and see like we'll do one exercise once the budget's all done is we'll go back through and I'll call like a reverse engineering, the whole exercise and showing people like it's not uncommon to find an extra 500,000, few $1,000s a month. And that's not like having to scrimp. That's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I guess I really don't need this. Or I guess yeah, that's not really a priority. And just being intentional, that's more money that you could be giving. That's more money that you can be saving, or putting it toward a wedding, nicer trip or some
All
anniversary
the
thing, whatever,
things.
anniversary trip, whatever.
Yeah,
So,
it's actually freeing. Like once you actually do the work, it's freeing because you're like, we have the budget, we budgeted for that, we've already agreed upon that. We're respecting the boundaries, we're being good stewards, and it's just it's the correct thing to do. Okay, cool. So what's the last S here?
yeah, I like to call it savvy investing. So just learning like what are some of those tools that, and obviously when you get into the investing world, there are so many things that you could talk about, right? So like we don't talk on every single, here's how to get into mobile homes and here's how to do this fancy real estate thing. We don't get like, here's how to flip and wholesale. Like we don't get into necessarily all of that stuff, but there's some basic things like, for instance, like most like it's not uncommon for us to look at our clients and just be like, hey, the stuff that you're investing in, the mutual funds, whatever, you're getting like 6%. Whatever you're getting like 3% or like too much of it in bonds. Like there's certain things that you can do to be able to even just like get to where you're at, like maybe 10, 12%, but even outperform the market. Like one of our investing coaches that I work with, he's since 2008 has gotten 25% year over year returns just in his own stock mix. That's just like buy and hold stuff. And then if you look at, if you're going to get more advanced stuff into trading, it's like, well, that's, he's got like in the last 6 years like 143% annualized return. So there's things that you can do on the investing side. We've got some real estate stuff that maybe get upper teens, low 20%, but there's things that you can do to outperform the market, and it doesn't have to be super complicated and super crazy sophisticated and difficult to do. And so we try to make it. My thing, Brett, is like I grew up knowing nothing about money. I went to Bible college for 6 years. Like I still learning more these financial concepts doesn't come natural to me. And so my always approach is like, if I can't explain this to an 8-year-old, or if this investment, like it's too complicated, how can we simplify it? So like one of the tools we have is like a pie where we've got our stock mix and like this, and literally it's just copy and paste. Like if you want to get in on this, if you want to work with somebody who's doing significantly better than a typical financial advisor without having to pay all these crazy, ridiculous fees, because they're not going to, you can't call your financial like, yeah, give me 25 more shares of Apple or do that. It's like, that's not how it's going to work. So there's simple things that you can do where it's like copy and paste, plug and play, and you can do really, really well. And so that's the last thing that I'm really passionate about, is because it's crazy, man. Like just with, I mean, compound interest, it's like Albert Einstein, eighth wonder of the world, So if you can get into some of those better opportunities, it's insane what that can mean for, we were showing clients last night. I was like, you can literally, we're showing one lady, I was like, you could be putting in, a couple $1,000s a month into something like this. And like you go from a millionaire to a decamillionaire, centimillionaire in the next 10, 20 years. And it doesn't require that much money. So that's the last part, is just like, what are some like off the beaten path, like not your typical financial advisor ways, but simple ways where you can significantly perform.
Fantastic. Let's shift a little bit into and geek out a little bit with some capital gains tax and some planning and some stuff. It's kind of all in this arena. So here at Capital Gains Tax, which is the company I founded, we focus on unlocking what's called truly passive income, and this happens by when people exit massive real estate, Bitcoin, businesses. In other words, they have their capital tied up and it's producing some cash flow, but it's like a gold mine that if they can unlock it, they could get massive cash flow, massive momentum, and what's called truly passive income. They're not charging their time, talents, treasure for it, and they can not only compound their cash flow, but compound their giving, right? And so it's really interesting, both sides of this, right? Where you're getting out of debt, you're getting everything in order, then you're building it. And then sometimes people are like, okay, well, wealth before was getting to that million. Wealth before was, getting to this thing. Well, actually wealth, the most thing is having peace, right? And having that peace. And so you could say, all right, well, what are the things that are holding you back? What's the obstacle? And they go, well, all the time. I'm not spending much time with my families. I'm more time on the business and more time on the real estate and all the things. Like, well, what if we could exit that, build a plan that helps you to, have an extra 20, 30, 40, 50%. But then the key is, I call it durable, consistent passive income. And we actually coin it truly passive income. It's the fourth quadrant in Robert Kiyosaki. It's the fourth one most people don't get to, where the money is working for the money, right? It's compounding, and it's showing up every month. And you're Kenny Chesney sitting on the beach. You get your guitar, you get your hat, your glasses, and it's just showing up. And whether it's 10, 20, 30, 50, $40, $50,000 per month, it's that consistent, it's durable. You don't have to think about it. And it's, you kind of like set it and forget it. So we say that truly passive income is to your freedom and impact, as compounding interest is to your money. Right. And when that connects, and I think one of the biggest things that people's mistakes they make is they focus on getting like 7 different streams of income.
Yeah.
It's almost like trying to get 7 different debts paid off all at once, right? You may not have the diluted focus, gets diluted results. And so we say, no, go like a laser. Like, what is that number for you per month? get it truly passive, and let that snowballing effect then go out, and then you can compound your giving. So I'm just curious on your thoughts on that and any feedback for that, for what I'm saying here.
Game time, man. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I love it. That's exactly what we want people to do. So
Cool.
who's
All right, that's great.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's like, yeah, it's perfect. That's exactly it fits the mold. So yeah, get
Excellent. If
after
you're
it.
exiting a big business or real estate, you can go to capitalgainstaxers.com. You can learn more about that. We've actually wrote a book on it as well called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan, where you can build a plan when you exit,
That's a
compound your.
good looking guy right there, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and we have Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book too, and then that's I have a few chapters and such, and so we just kind of dig into how to do that, and so have an extra 20, 30, 40, 50% more proceeds at closing, and then typically double, sometimes triple your cash on cash return than what you had prior to. Diversify. You can get out of debt too if you have massive debt in the real estate or in the business, and you can get the debt paid off, close, defer the tax. It's really transformational for families. Go to capitalgainstaxers.com. That being said, Mr. Jeremy, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's go for it, man. I don't
All
even know
right.
what's coming, so just we'll see what happens. Yeah.
All right. Favorite book you recommended the most the past year?
The Book of Proverbs. I know it kind of cheats, but I'm a big fan.
Okay, excellent.
You
Next.
you got the wealthiest, probably arguably the wealthiest guy who's ever walked, the highest paid wealth consultant, right? You got kings and queens of the earth. So like, I'm all about Proverbs. I'm a big fan.
Perfect. Question number 2. What are you most curious about right now?
Man, what am I most curious about? I'm giving you like a thunder round. This isn't the lightning round. It's like it's like the delayed response, right? You hear it a few seconds later. I think I've been most curious about, like I said, more of the recent thing we've been incorporating is looking at how can we find ways to be able to significantly outperform the market in a more of a passive way. So that's been something that's been fun to like work with my buddy Mike, bringing him on board and just seeing how can we do that and help our people not have to be so overwhelmed and intimidated when it comes to investing, you know?
Perfect. Love it. That's great. Number 1, are you using ChatGPT?
How am I using ChatGPT?
Best way.
Just every day. I actually use Perplexity AI. That's my favorite tool.
Oh,
I don't know if you
why is that your favorite?
It's my favorite because it actually references where it pulls the data. So whenever you go into and it's free too, just like ChatGPT. But what's great is like if I was to ask a question, it's gonna give a little footnote and a hyperlink to every single place that it pulled that data from. Which ChatGPT to me, you get stuff and then you don't know if it's actually I can't tell you how many times I've corrected ChatGPT and it's like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry about that. It changes. You don't know where it's getting it from. So I love Perplexity. I got that one from our friend Brandon Poulin. He was my reference for that.
Perfect. Next question. Number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Number 1 leadership quote. I would say extreme ownership. I take extreme ownership of everything. Like if someone on my company, even if they're having marriage problems or health problems, I take responsibility for that. So I just found like even in marriage in my company, if I always take the blame and everything is my fault, that means I have total power to fix it. And when you create a culture like that, it also then bleeds down to your people where they do the same thing and they're not blame shifting and pointing the finger at everyone else. They always bring a solution and try to take full responsibility. So that's helped me the most in my life, I honestly think. Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Second last question. Number 1 Bible verse that your life verse.
Like I said, yeah, Proverbs 13:20, man, whoever walks the wise becomes wise. The companion of fools will suffer harm. Stop hanging around stupid people. Biblically speaking, wise people are also wealthy people. They're responsible. They have integrity. So find people that are making lots of money, doing lots of good, being generous, walking rightly with God, and you're going to find yourself doing the same thing.
Awesome. Last question. Number 1 way that and this might be the answer from the last one you just said, like practice stewardship mindset over ownership, right? Knowing that everything we've been given is given to us to be stewarded for this time, this side of the earth. And how do you stay centered in that?
Yeah, I think you have to have a clear mission. So for me is my goal is to ignite debt-free millionaire revival for millions of Americans so that we can fund trillions for the gospel and lead over 1 billion people to Jesus before I die. So my goal isn't to get massively rich. Honestly, at one point it was to become a billionaire. I still want to become a billionaire. That's one of my goals. But what I care more about is leading 1 billion people to Jesus along the way. And I know that that's going to, and also helping other people free up their money so that we can do amazing things for the kingdom of God. So to me, that's my thing, man, is like when you're visualizing and focusing and praying, be thinking about like, what is the eternal impact that I can have as opposed to how can I just have more fun here until I hit the grave? Because I know you know this, but you don't ever see a hearse, dragging a U-Haul behind it. I mean,
That's
it's going to
true.
stay here. So I'm thinking about eternal impact. That's what matters most to me, man.
Jeremy Krulikowski, I'm going to pronounce that
It's
maybe
okay.
correctly,
It's
maybe
close
not.
enough. Yeah.
I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom, your practical, tactical, and amazing wisdom on how to really build wealth in a fresh way, in a debt free way, in a wise way. I want to encourage you to keep doing that to help all the people you're helping and to make a huge difference in this world. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so especially if they've got credit card personal loan debt, it's over 10,000, they could go straight to kingdomdebtsolutions.com if they want. Also include a link down here for your people or wherever you want to do it if you want. And then Kingdom Wealth Movement, like again, that's for people. Maybe you're like already out of debt, or that's not really an issue, or maybe you got student loans or other kinds of things. That's where we're going to do, like I said, it's kind of the one-stop shop where we're going to look at mindset. We're going to look at how you view money, how you're spending your money, what can we save, where can we save, how can we earn. So we're just going to do a total 180 analysis and see what we can do to get you back where you want to be. So yeah, either way, both of those will work. Yep.
Phenomenal. Thank you, Jeremy. I also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast. We're here on this journey to scale from millions to billions so we can give more all the way to help MVPs. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels as well. So if you're seeing us there, fantastic. Please rate, review, subscribe. And of course, if you have a massive exit coming up, please get with us. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We'll do a no-cost consultation to see if you would be a great fit for our service to defer that capital gains tax, to unlock truly passive income, to multiply your freedom and impact. Just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Appreciate everyone out there, and we will talk to you all real soon. Bye now.